A self-directed learner or an autonomous learner is proficient in many things. They possess a lengthy list of attributes, characteristics, values, competencies, and even learning skills. But these four traits, or all of these traits, fall under 13 broad areas, as have been identified by Candy in his 1991 book. So these areas are to be methodical and disciplined, logical, analytical, reflective, and self-aware. They have the ability to demonstrate a curiosity and openness and motivation. They're flexible in their learning environment. They can be interdependent and interpersonally competent. They are also persistent and responsible, virtuous, venturesome, and creative. They can show confidence and have a positive self-confidence. They are also independent and self-sufficient. They have developed information seeking and retrieval skills that are phenomenal. They are very skilled in the learning process, and they also have developed and use a criteria for evaluation. So let's look at each of these in more detail. So an autonomous learner who demonstrates this trait of being methodical and disciplined are those that have a direction and are able to focus on an area of interest for a long period of time. They can exercise self-discipline as they follow their own developed learning plan to achieve their goals. They are able to analyze and plan the entire learning process and also are able to manage this process efficiently and effectively. They can plan their learning far into the future and use their time effectively. They will establish and maintain their personal learning priorities with a sense of what is important to themselves, those around them, and their community. They can put learning needs into specific objectives with highly systemized organizational methods. They can develop sequential plans with these objectives with records to detail the learning process. They are logical and analytical, and this means that it's an ability that requires the learner to be attuned to their whole person. They are able to organize their thoughts into schemas and to form generalizations, look for principles, and find basic structures for information and subjects. They enjoy questioning, learning, evaluating, testing, and analyzing information. They can define and analyze problems. They're adept at problem solving. They can develop criteria to assess the varying solutions to the problems while breaking it down into goals that are associated with achievement. They engage in logical reasoning, draw inferences, come to conclusions, organize data, analyze information, and identify underlying assumptions. They're able to go beyond the simple solutions to see the implications, both short-term and long-term. They are both reflective and self-aware. They're one who is an autonomous learner that is able to identify the needs for the problems to be solved, skills, or information that needs to be obtained. They can effectively judge what knowledge and skills need to be learned. They have access to alternative perspectives for complete understanding with an awareness of the situation. They can identify learning objectives. They are aware of the needs of the learning in contrast to the constraints, possessing a powerful self-concept of themselves as an effective learner. They can clarify their values, establish their goals based on those identified values. They know their learning style, learning personality, learning strengths, learning weaknesses, and they know when to ask for help. They can identify their own values, interests, abilities, knowledge with the associated gaps. They know exactly what they want to be as an adult learner and contributor of society and its members. The autonomous learner is one that is a self-starter with initiative and high intrinsic motivation. They are curious and open to all things. They have a drive that will keep learning in a variety of arenas. They're open to all learning, but they are especially excited about their own projects. They are going to have a deep interest in some things and a passion to have learning opportunities. They tend to be future-oriented and discover new information through investigation and are going to confront questions and problems both eagerly and willingly. Flexibility for the autonomous learner is paramount to their success in learning. They are able to learn from a variety of situations, whether that be in conversation, in reading, or by observation. They can learn when they listen, take notes, or even memorizing. This does not mean that they do not have a preference for a learning style, just that they are capable of being flexible between styles. They can modify their learning modalities to meet the needs of the situation. They can be flexible in evaluating the information to accept or reject the information as valid and to alter their learning goals as needed. The self-directed learner can be sensitive and open in social situations, which permits them to have more access to information. They will have sustained relationships with subject matter experts and even in small group of people. They can work cooperatively with others, acknowledging their gaps in knowledge while learning with and from others. They're able to share their ideas and develop group plans to achieve goals. They know when to ask for help. They can analyze group dynamics and are capable of using a group decision-making process. They can diagnose learning needs with help from others as needed. They can relate to teachers with the ability to secure cooperation and support from advisors. They relate to their peers as resources. They can also relate to others despite differences in socioeconomical statuses, age, race, roles, or a variety of other differences. The persistent and responsible self-directed learner is emotionally stable, objective, and impartial. They can be serious, committed, and organized. They are systematic. They assume responsibility and are capable of intellectual concentration. They accept their responsibility for their learning. They will stick to their plans, modifying them only as needed. They can rejuvenate their motivation even in times of learning frustration. They possess the ability to detect and cope with personal and situational blocks to learning with a determination to resolve problems. This learner is able to develop frameworks and capable of original thinking. They are creative. They can produce analogies. They are able to construct special materials, and they're unafraid of being different. They are able to discover new possibilities for learning and application. They can develop alternative solutions to problems who engage in divergent thinking. They are intuitive, and they also tend to be risk takers. They are unafraid to be different from others. They can stick to a position and work from their own satisfaction with a quiet self-confidence. They know how to achieve their goals and objectives to pursue excellence based on their personal standards. They project to the world a clarity of purpose. Self-directed learners can relate to others without depending upon them. They possess skills to study independently in reading, writing, listening, reflective thinking, time use, and motivation. They are able to work independently while taking the initiative. They can also work cooperatively with others, but enjoy being on their own to learn. The learner is one that is capable of selecting the most relevant resources, identifying and knowing how to use these resources to achieve their learning objectives. They establish feedback loops to evaluate their performance and progress to meet their goals. They are able to dig up materials that may be less accessible while knowing the list of available opportunities. The learning process is one that is going to be part of the self-directed learner's proficiency. They will know the ins and the outs of this learning process. They can report back on what they have learned in a variety of ways. They are able to decode messages through textual, auditory, or visual means. They collect information through appropriate tools and instruments that match the needs. They can master tasks through their own skills and competencies. They can understand learning and behavior challenges to achieve learning objectives. Basic study skills and problem-solving skills are used for the self-directed learner to gain knowledge and skills through resources. They are proficient in note-taking, remembering, relating information, and they're able to conduct learning activities. Lastly, they have critical evaluation skills. They know how to develop and use a criteria of evaluation through selecting what is valuable to the situation from mass information. They participate in diagnosing, prescribing, and evaluating their learning progress. They can evaluate the appropriateness of new skills, adequacy of solutions, and the quality of new ideas and knowledge. They are able to evaluate data and learning activities.